Coach, rough road trip to Oklahoma. From your perspective, what was happening on the court that resulted in 2 losses?
Well, I think we didn't do a good job of finishing plays in either of those 2 contests, and that's something that we've got to get a lot better at. I think if you go to the Oklahoma State game as an example, there were times that they didn't make shots, and then they got offensive rebounds and putbacks and those type of situations and scenarios, and those are the things that we've got to get a lot better at. Because we can control those type of things. At least, to some extent we can control that. Sometimes you can do a really good job of boxing out and still give up an offensive rebound, but there were times that we didn't do a good enough job of putting ourselves in the right positions, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you had a lot more success at home. There's the obvious, home court advantage. We can go through all the different things.
Right, all the analytics of that.
All the analytics
right.
and stuff. But what do you think about your team makes them more comfortable playing at home as opposed to a 2-game road trip in Oklahoma?
Oh, I think obviously there are a lot of people who would tell you what makes playing at home more comfortable, but I think ultimately for us, regardless of where we're at, we've got to do a great job of being highly competitive and finding ways to stay with plays longer than our competition, and that's something that we're going to be challenged to do by Iowa State because it's something they're known for, not only their ability to score the ball and shoot the ball, but they've got a lot of toughness to them, and so that's going to be something that we've got to do a really good job with.
It's been a long time since your last game with Iowa State.
Right.
You've gotten a lot more wins in that span. Where has your team grown, and what do you expect to see on Saturday?
Well, ultimately, again, I think the main message for us is we've got to do a really good job of making teams uncomfortable. I think for us, our calling card has to be our defensive intensity, awareness, and finishing in those situations. And that's something that I think at times we have shown at a pretty high level, and it's hard to sustain that throughout completely, because there's sometimes you need a margin for error. I think the teams that have had success against a lot of teams in the Big 12 have been able to answer. You're playing against players that can score at a really high level. You're not going to take everything away. Even when you defend at a really high level, they can still make shots over the top or make things happen. And so then you've got to be able to answer. And so and that may be coming up the court, in a quick attack, that may be moving the basketball, that may be at the rim, that may be an offensive rebounds. But ultimately, when you don't have the ability to have a margin for error because you're just a team that can just score kind of at will or find ways to do that, then every defensive possession just means that much more. And so that's what we've got to focus on, is how to really get locked in and put our opponents in uncomfortable situations to the best of our ability, because that does give us the best opportunity to go out and score.
Coach, along those lines, had trouble scoring in the fourth quarter at Oklahoma State. Same thing in the second half the last time you played Iowa State.
Right.
What more do you need to see from this team closing out these games?
Well, ultimately, again, I think for us, a lot of it stems from our ability to get stops, because then you can put your offensive team in a situation where you are in attack mode and it's a little easier to attack in transition. So that's kind of where it starts from for us. And then I think ultimately, being able to find different ways to score, if that makes sense. So whether that's on the block, and we've had success doing that against some teams. We didn't have success doing that at Oklahoma State. We got around the rim certainly early in the game, but we didn't necessarily get there on post touches. We got there on some drive scenarios. I think certainly getting offensive rebounds gives you opportunities to get to score in different ways, and so those are some of the things. Again, those are our finishing plays and battling and competing.
The last 2 games aren't necessarily outliers, but the bulk of your scoring came from Madison and JJ.
Right.
Was that a matter of that, like you said, not finishing plays, or is that execution?
Well, I think there are a couple things. One, I think they get going in transition, and they can create shots, and they're really hard to guard when they get going, and they can penetrate and make some things happen that way. I think there are some kids who we had some really good opportunities that didn't finish some of those opportunities. We're trying to get the ball around the rim on more opportunities, and we're not able to get those opportunities in the same way that we need to be successful, to create more shot opportunities, score opportunities for different players. We have some players that at times passed up some opportunities, and so those are all things that we've got to continue to kind of work through how to find different ways to be efficient offensively.
What do you anticipate Saturday?
In terms of
From your performance from your team, what do you want from them?
well, I think, again, our whole message has kind of been about competing and finishing plays, and that's what we have to do. We have to be the tougher team. We have to find a way to make Iowa State or whoever we're playing against uncomfortable and work to be disruptive defensively, and then get the ball moving on the offensive end, pushing up the court and attacking in those situations. Saturday's a good opportunity for us, too, because it's a special game with it being our pink game and a breast cancer awareness opportunity, but also a fundraising opportunity. We're partnering or collaborating with the WVU Cancer Institute as well as with the Betty Bush Carr. It's amazing. We have the Betty Bush Carr Breast Care Center right here in Morgantown, and so raising funds, to go towards that is something that's really special. And then, really having an opportunity for our players, and we're hoping that this all works out, and certainly things can come up, but certainly hoping that this all works out on Friday to meet some breast cancer survivors and share their story, to understand why we're wearing pink uniforms and why we're doing those things and all the accessories.
How is Iowa State different with the injury? Have they changed much, their style?
Well, I don't know that they've changed. Their ability to attack the rim is still the same. They may do it with different players, if that makes sense. They still they post up. They really post up guards. Obviously, posting up Ashley Jones, whether she's a guard, whether she's a forward, whatever. But she's someone who attacks the rim and posts up, and attacks the rim on ball in dribble penetration as well as post-up penetration. So I think they are similar in the regard that they still attack in the same ways. They're just doing it with potentially, different personnel at different times. But they still shoot it. They shoot 26 arc shots a game and fly to the offensive glass. And I think they have different players that step up in different games, and they've got a lot of toughness to them. So that'll be tested for us.
You mentioned Jones. You guys held her below her average, still 19 points.
Right.
What makes her tough to guard, and what's the game plan for her tomorrow?
Well, she's relentless in a lot of different ways, and she can score in a lot of different ways. And so whether that means she's the first kid down the court and she's posting up, whether that means she's the kid handling the ball and attacking the rim, whether that means she's the kid trailing and shooting it, whether it means that, they're creating an opportunity for her in a certain set or action. But she's someone who can score in a lot of different ways. And then if she doesn't get it, she seems to offensive rebound and put herself in a spot to create that way too. So, she's really tough, and she has the ability to score in a lot of different ways.
How are your ladies holding up? You're getting to the time of the year where you come off that really rough road trip back to back, and you're in February. How are they holding up?
Well, we'll see today. Obviously, we took a day off yesterday, and it's challenging because not only are you gone and you're in tough environments, but at the same time you're away from school, and that's stressful. It is. We have very high academic young ladies who care a great deal about their grades and how they're doing in classes, and so it's a stressful time. This is a catch-up time for us as well, and so I anticipate I anticipate that our young ladies are going to be hungry, and that we are going to battle, and that we're going to compete. That's what I anticipate.
You kind of have to plan ahead, right? When you look at your schedule and say, okay, what games are backed up, where are we making the long trips? You kind of have to pay attention to all that and kind of plan that out, don't you?
Well, a lot of it's planned out for you to some extent,
but I mean,
right? But
still,
from days off and those
prepare
things,
them and
right?
Whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's you're in the stretch right now where it's a major grind, and so you've got to demonstrate your toughness in a lot of different ways, if that makes sense.
I guess also too, make sure they stay off their legs and take care of themselves. This is the time of year when you get to tournament time close to, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it? 8 regular season Is that what it is at this point in time? 8 regular season opportunities remaining, and then the postseason opportunities. So yeah, I think it's important that we are physically, mentally in spots where we understand, but we also are prepared as we can be. And I think going around and playing teams for a second time, hopefully your awareness is really good, but then your execution has to be really good too.
Any other questions for Coach? All right.
Oh, one more.
I have one.
Yep.
Your last home game, you had the Title IX 50-year celebration. For the future, you have your mini Mountaineers. What does it mean for young girls like that to see college athletes, and then for the future of women's sports?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're really excited about the young girls who are part of the Coach P's Mini Mountaineers program. They're girls in grades 3 through 8. And our goal is not to only put them in a basketball clinic and give them ideas on basketball skills that they can work on. You're together for 2 hours, so their skill level, will improve slightly, but you're giving them ideas. But the reality is the goal for our program is to inspire those young girls to continue to work and to continue to smile and to love it and to be their best, and then to be around our student athletes, whether it's on the court, as you mentioned before our last game, or whether it's through the letters that our players send to them, to understand that they've got great role models in our young ladies. And so it's a great privilege for us to have that group.